Hook. Einstein's brain is basically a celebrity in the Genius Hall of Fame. Urban legend even claims his neurons suited up in tuxedos before firing. If IQ were measured in wild hairs per square inch, he'd mop the floor with everyone, closely trailed by the family Pomeranian. Thanks to a wild mix of legend, pop science, and humanity's odd obsession with ranking each other numerically, many are convinced Einstein holds the highest IQ ever recorded. Myth. The tale goes that Einstein, the undisputed heavyweight champ of relativity, obliterated every IQ test he ever faced. With each retelling, the numbers climb higher: 160, 190, even 200. Apparently, unlocking the universe's secrets requires threatening a Scantron meltdown. Facts. Reality check. Einstein never took a formal IQ test. The first mainstream IQ exams appeared when he was too busy rewriting physics and wrestling his unruly hair to mark answer sheets. Estimates on his IQ are less science, more lucky dart throw, ranging from a plausible 160 to, did you sneak in E equals MC squared to inflate that? Meanwhile, official record holders like Marilyn Vos Savant or Terence Tao sport far tamer hairstyles but come with solid documentation. Punch. Ironically, most IQ tests don't have a single question on relativity, nor do they quiz you on remembering where you left your keys. The real genius test. So Einstein probably wouldn't have scored high on his own best tricks anyway. Bridge. So what does this mean for genius? Maybe it's those wild creative leaps, relentless curiosity, and yes, a reckless approach to combing that count far more than any number crammed into a standardized test. Turns out, Einstein's mind is far harder to quantify than his hair. While many believe Einstein had the highest IQ ever recorded, some myths suggest his academic performance was surprisingly poor. Picture Einstein flunking math. Proof that genius comes with a messy report card, right? Classic cocktail party lore. Young Albert, wild hair and bewildered, stumbling over simple addition while the universe waits for his lightbulb moment. If Einstein was really bad at math, then my cooking deserves Michelin stars. Let's call it what it is. Wishful thinking with a side of burnt toast. The reality? Kid Einstein wasn't hopeless at fractions. He was terrifyingly ahead of the curve. While classmates counted on fingers, little Albert was munching calculus for breakfast, probably with less fuss than he gave his hair, which is to say, none. The infamous Einstein failed math myth? A Swiss grading system translation gone sideways, confusing historians more than students. Einstein was acing math, not flunking it. Sure, he bombed an exam once. But before you cue the underdog anthem, know it was an entrance test to a fancy institute. And the trouble wasn't numbers, but French and history. Maybe algebra wasn't the problem. Passé composé was. Einstein's real challenge? Tedium and red tape, not math. We love picturing towering genius rising from humble struggle. But in this case, the only thing Einstein failed was pretending to be mediocre. So next time someone drops the Einstein flunked math line, flash a knowing smile, and maybe mention my 5-star souffle. Despite claims about his schooling struggles, others emphasize that Einstein's genius was innate and evidenced by unique brain characteristics. Why do we picture Einstein as some cosmic wizard with a brain chiseled by Greek gods? Hollywood never asks. They prefer the wild-haired sage whose neurons crackle with universal secrets and maybe a bit of static cling. The myth is simple. Einstein was born a genius. His cradle probably shaped like E equals MC squared. Pop culture's obsessed with the Einstein mystique. The mustache! The infamous tongue selfie! And believe it or not, the brain itself. After his death, scientists didn't just nod and say, "Nice work, Al." No, they sliced and diced his brain like a deli meat, passing around samples like theoretical bagels at a physics brunch, all hunting for that elusive genius goo. Spoiler alert, structurally, Einstein's brain wasn't drastically different from yours, mine, or that overly confident uncle's. The only thing unique? More people have had a nibble of his brain than his birthday cake. What truly set Einstein apart wasn't an especially twisty cortex or turbocharged neurons. It was his insatiable curiosity, relentless questioning, and stubborn refusal to accept easy answers. Fun fact, he was a late talker and at times a mediocre student. Pretty sure the IQ fairy skipped his crib. If genius runs in the genes, someone owes Einstein's barber a Nobel Prize. So let's bridge the myth and the man. Genius isn't baked in, mapped on a brain scan, or attached to a signature hairstyle. It's messy, complicated, and hard-won. The scientific equivalent of bad hair days and eureka moments, all tangled in one brilliant knot. Although it said his intellect was exceptional and physical brain features were unique, questions arise about how accurately his IQ can be compared to today's standards. If Albert Einstein strutted into a modern testing center, would he ace the scantron or scribble wild equations until the proctors needed a time machine to make sense of it all? Picture the scene. Clipboard-wielding proctors trembling, backup calculators standing by, and a secret stash of antacids in case the space-time continuum snaps under test pressure. Here's the twist. Einstein never actually took a formal IQ test. Shocking, right? When he was climbing the genius ladder, IQ tests were still figuring out if they measured true smarts or just how fast you could jab bubbles with a number. 2 pencils before the bell rang. So those rumors about Einstein's IQ hitting 160, 200, or some prime number you can't quite recall? Pure hearsay, not the product of any verified, standardized pencil-chewing drama. Today's IQ tests mostly toss you visual puzzles, pattern spotting, and vocabulary showdowns. No extra credit for inventing a bizarre math theorem or doodling the theory of relativity in the margins mid-exam. The internet can't agree if Einstein's IQ soars above 180 or hovers around 3.14, a totally irrational number, much like, well, pi. Here's the kicker. Comparing Einstein's brainpower to your high school math test is like pitting the Mona Lisa against a paint-by-numbers cat. Genius isn't always about finding the missing puzzle piece. Sometimes it's about building the whole new puzzle. If Einstein took the test, odds are he'd invent a brand new scoring system and then forget to sign the paper. So next time you're stressing over your bubble sheet, chill. Even Einstein might have left a few C's blank. He was too busy solving the universe. Beyond measuring his IQ with modern tests, another myth portrays Einstein as a solitary genius, working completely alone. Picture Einstein, hunched over a desk, hair in full mad scientist vortex, equations swirling like a pop culture cyclone. Cue the lonely violin solo. The ultimate image of genius, right? But was he really a one-man intellectual tornado, battling the cosmos in solitary glory? Pop culture insists he was. The guy who ghosted group chats, skipped office hours, and waved off company with a casual, "I just work better alone." Comfort food for introverts everywhere. Here's the kicker. Einstein was never flying solo. As a patent clerk, he bounced between gadgets and chit-chat more than secluded scribbling. He kept his brain buzzing by debating with pals in Bern's Olympia Academy. Turns out even Einstein needed a study group. Unlike that kid who thinks cramming alone at 2 a.m. is a genius move. His eureka moments? Special relativity and the like weren't flash-in-the-pan solo strikes. They emerged from a stew of arguments, letters, and peer critique, science's version of group therapy. Plus, his wife, Mileva Maric, lent a hand early on, though historians are still hashing out who did what, because every group project has that mystery teammate. And sure, some scientists were on Team Skeptic at first, but even doubters eventually gave his cosmic ideas the attention and roasting they deserved. The takeaway? Science, much like the worst group project ever, is never a solo gig. If Einstein truly were a lone wolf, he'd still be waiting for someone else to invent the chalk. Despite the image of him working in isolation, some assert that his genius extended to being proficient in all areas. Ever heard someone claim Einstein was good at everything? Let's just say, not even E=mc² can gloss over some decidedly average report cards. The myth of Einstein as a walking brain paints him rattling off equations, solving Sudoku in his sleep, and multitasking omelet-making with Mozart's violin concerto playing. Basically, the universe's original Swiss Army knife. If only scientific genius extended to finding your umbrella. Now, for the not-so-glamorous truth. Teenage Einstein? He didn't exactly waltz through every class. French gave him more grief than quantum mechanics. His report cards often screamed meh, louder than a Milky Way in meltdown. Standardized tests? Let's just say, they're about as useful for spotting a future physics legend as a metal detector is for finding your missing socks. If intelligence were measured by organizational skills alone, Einstein would have lost a chess match to his own laundry pile. Practical life skills? Forget it. The man famously lost his train ticket while on the train and reportedly couldn't remember his own address, a real head-scratcher for someone mapping space-time. Asked to cook an omelet, you'd be more likely to get a culinary crime scene that breaks 3 laws of thermodynamics and at least 1 kitchen safety code. Musically? Passionate, yes. But while he loved his violin, few would mistake his performances for virtuoso level, unless virtuoso means charmingly off-key. Even his former math professors might have suggested he stick to physics. So before you picture Einstein as the ultimate Renaissance man, remember, genius looks less like a superhero cape and more like a guy hunting for his house keys, the true theory of relativity in action. However, others claim that Einstein was either disinterested or not skilled in practical mathematics, challenging the idea that he excelled at everything. Was Einstein a wizard with equations, or did he need help figuring out the tip? Rumor has it old Al's heart skipped a beat at the sight of a grocery receipt. The world's greatest physicist supposedly struggled with basic math, maybe even breaking a sweat over splitting a pizza bill. Let's shatter that myth like light through a prism. The story that Einstein hated or was hopeless at math started with a playful misreading of his own words. He once said he'd forgotten some math, which the world twisted into, Einstein couldn't tell a 7 from a sigma. But what did he really mean? He'd nailed calculus by 16, a bit early for someone mathematically challenged. Relativity wasn't scribbled on a napkin. It demanded so much math that most physicists got lost halfway through. If Einstein hated math, then I'm an Olympic sprinter, because I occasionally dodge the ice cream truck. Here's the truth. Einstein only grumbled about the bleeding edge stuff. Think tensors, not tips. For general relativity, he ventured into mathematics so abstract that he teamed up with pros like Marcel Grossman. This wasn't adding apples, it was inventing a new recipe for the cosmic apple pie. When he joked about forgetting math, he was either being modest or slyly underselling himself. The only time Einstein struggled with numbers? Keeping track of all his own theories. So next time someone claims Einstein couldn't calculate the tip, remind them, our cosmic wizard could handle your change, even if the bill was hurtling close to the speed of light. Given these varying perceptions of his abilities, the question remains whether Einstein's IQ is truly the best measure of his scientific contributions. If scientific genius came with a scoreboard, Einstein's hair would be the easiest thing to tally, and still leave us scratching our heads. That wild mop looked like it had its own IQ, constantly defying the laws of combing physics daily. Yet when folks rave about Einstein's IQ, usually somewhere between astronomical and off the charts, they treat it like gospel, as if a 3-digit number explains his universe-bending brilliance. Let's shatter that myth. There's zero record, zilch, that Einstein ever took a standardized IQ test. The man wasn't showing up at parties flashing a laminated Mensa card boasting a triple-digit tally. IQ tests are just highbrow logic and reasoning contests. They measure quick-fire problem-solving and pattern spotting, sure, but they barely skim the surface of the wild, paradigm-smashing leaps Einstein made. If IQ alone defined genius, half the Nobel Prize winners would just be Mensa members with better handwriting. What truly set Einstein apart wasn't a number, but revolutionary theories of relativity and quantum mechanics. These ideas didn't just rewrite textbooks. They turned everyday ideas like time and gravity into something that sounds more like sci-fi. Boiling his impact down to a neat IQ score? That's like ranking Nobel laureates by their Twitter followers. Nice theory, Einstein. What's your Wonderlic score? So, let's not confuse brainpower with test scores. Doing so risks missing the wild, heady beauty twisting beneath Einstein's famously unruly hair. Genius is far too multidimensional to fit on a scantron. Voices like his remind us, sometimes it's not about scoring points, but changing the whole game.